This episode is brought to you ad-free thanks to all of our wonderful patrons. You can get tons of exclusive content, including bonus episodes, warm-up audio, and early access to episodes, all while helping us keep the show going by joining at patreon.com/shonenflop.
What's up, floppers? So this episode, you may be noticing somebody isn't here. Yeah, that's right. David had to go do some shit somewhere, whatever. So we got Dylan here today.
Yeah!
Yeah, Dylan's the new David.
I'm like, what would happen if David, decided he wanted to become more of a burnout and grow out his hair and also have his voice drop an octave?
I was gonna say you're like David if he instead of helium there's that other gas that makes your voice really fucking low.
Freezes your vocal cords, right?
I almost just said sodium pentothal, but that's a truth serum, so I can't fucking remember.
Well, if we gave it to you, you would have gotten the right chemical.
Yeah, it's like something hexachloride. I don't know. I saw Adam Savage use it one time.
Anyway, welcome to this episode of Shonen Flop, where we talk about manga and Shonen Jump that didn't make it big. I'm Dylan.
I'm Jordan.
Next week, David and Jordan will be covering hands.
Hands! Oh, I see. Okay, that is hand apostrophe S, by the way.
Yes.
Hand possessive.
It is possessive hands, not plural hands, though there's probably going to be at least 2 hands in the manga.
Well, then they should have made it hands apostrophe.
They should have. Then it'd be handses, depending on how you want to pronounce
Whatever.
If you'd like to read along with them, be sure to join the discussion in their Discord and submit your 6-word summary. You can find a link to the Discord in the episode description and on our website, shonenflop.com. But this week, we are talking about Super Dog Rilienthal, and we are joined by our guest, Tessa. Welcome.
Yo!
Hello, Dylan, Jordan. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming.
It is a pleasure.
So, Tessa, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. My name is Tessa Strong, or strongBadEgirl. I'm a Twitch streamer under that name. Thank you very much for the recognition.
Yes.
I am from Rhode Island. I am living now in Philadelphia, and I am a lifelong fan of comics, a miserable weeb, and an armchair linguist, which makes me uniquely qualified to discuss failed manga series.
I was going to say that is a perfect combination of, God, I can't think of any words today, of skills, a perfect combination of skills to be on this podcast. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me.
Let's get into the manga details of Super Dog Rilienthal. So Tucker had something to say where he was pretty sure that the TH sound comes from Neanderthal, but Tessa, you were giving us a different theory on the name.
Indeed. Well, when I was first assigned to read this manga a few months ago, the name sounded familiar to me, and for some reason I kept wanting to say Lilienthal. So I investigated. It is probably still pronounced Lilienthal, and Lilienthal is a German surname made famous by one Otto Lilienthal, who was a Prussian inventor in the late 19th century, famous for developing heavier-than-air gliding craft and proving that heavier-than-air flight was a theoretical possibility before the Wright brothers did their thing. So Rilienthal as a character is tangentially associated with the concept of invention.
Yeah.
He is called a device. I don't want to necessarily think too hard about what that implies. But yeah, I'm guessing what happened is that the author of the manga named the character Rilienthal, or Lilienthal, and because R and L are allophones in Japanese, meaning they code for the same phoneme,
right?
He just put the letter R on Lilienthal's bandana, and so then when the manga was localized, the localizer made the very reasonable decision of just naming the character Rilienthal so that the first letter of his name would match the letter on his bandana.
I think that makes a lot of sense, especially because, we were all kind of stumped, but,
Yeah, nonplussed.
Nonplussed, exactly. Yeah, according to Tucker, though, the title, which is actually,
Kashikoi Ken
Yeah.
Rilienthal.
Thank you. It is actually Kashikoi Ken Rilientharu. Yes. When you use Kashikoi to refer to a person, it means smart or clever. But when referring to a pet, it means well-behaved or trained. So there you go. There you go, everybody.
That is a very clever double meaning.
Yes.
This is something you notice on the first page of most of the chapters where, the splash page or whatever, it will say clever dog or smart dog.
That's true. But anyway, back to the details on this manga. This was written by Daisuke Ashihara. Notable people they had as assistants. Oh my god. Ippei Goto of Hi-Fi Cluster. Are you familiar with Hi-Fi Cluster, Tessa?
Only by repute. I don't actually know any details about it.
It sucks.
Oh.
It's terrible.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to tell me that it was an incredible hit, and you were shocked to learn that they had worked on Rilienthal.
No, I was shocked because, wow, that sucks.
Are these all art assistants, by the way?
I don't know.
They may be art, some may be people who have assisted with writing. It could be anywhere that they've been, just on the same ticket.
Yeah. Also, though, notable here is Hiroki Tomisawa of Super Smartphone. Tessa, have you heard of Super Smartphone?
I have not heard of Super Smartphone. Is it a link because you've talked about it on this podcast before?
We have. What do you think it's about?
Is it about kid with superpowers that he executes through his smartphone?
No, it's about a kid who has a super smartphone.
Oh.
You were overthinking it.
You gave it too much complexity.
It's maybe coming from the sorts of manga I see more often, but yeah, I was imagining him channeling some sort of a power through the screen. My mistake, it's just a character.
He has a smartphone with like super Google on it, basically.
Oh, it's not even sapient, it's just a very good smartphone?
It may be sapient in that it can predict exactly what information is required for a given situation.
Wow, that sounds like an eminently convenient plot device for a manga series.
You'd be surprised. It's like Death Note if nobody died, basically.
I'm imagining an iteration where Light Yagami just writes down the names of people he doesn't like and nothing happens.
Oh, God. Other people this guy had as assistants were Shinichiro Oe of Hero Caesar Chan, never heard of it, and Kenta Tsuchida of Toge Toge. I've heard of that, I think? That sounds familiar? I don't know. But other things that Daisuke Ashihara has done are, he did World Trigger, which is apparently very popular.
Yeah, running presently.
Yeah.
Now, when I see people getting into arguments about manga on Twitter, I have not seen World Trigger come up yet, but maybe it's only been running for 11 years. Maybe it's still on its ascendancy.
Hey, maybe it'll get there someday. But no, that's one of those manga where, like, I've seen it written places. Like, every now and then I'll see someone mention it, but I know nothing about it. But apparently it's a big hit.
That's the same exposure I've had, based on the fact that I've never heard anyone stand super hard on it or hate on it too much. I'm gonna guess it's just, like, on the positive side of, it's all right.
Like, it's got a cult following, maybe.
I mean, if it can run, because I imagine that you guys understand the mechanics of a series' success in Weekly Jump better than I do. I know that there is a popularity survey in every issue, and that series need to stay off the bottom ranks of that survey to not get canceled.
It is complicated. Oh man, we read this manga one time that was like How Jump is Made, where they talk to like editors.
Oh, did you read Bakuman?
No, that's a good manga that would not be on our show. No, this was, it's about this guy who has a head in the shape of an egg, and he's talking to the editors of Shonen Jump. And at one point, I believe they say, I think the popularity test somewhat matters, but, like, they don't really take it into account. It matters until it doesn't, basically.
Mm-hmm.
It only matters if they want to axe your manga.
Yeah. Also, they mention that they are intentionally sexist.
No shit.
Yeah.
They're so open about it. He's like, so I noticed there are no women here. You want to have you thought of changing that? They're like, why would we put a woman in the Shonen Jump magazine?
Hello, Shonen Jump? It's not Shoujo Jump.
Yeah, we want to make it more manly, but also, us guys, we know how to appeal to girls with our manga. And it's like, oh, okay, sure, okay.
Something I remember from reading Bakuman, which, just to give the listener some context, it's by Oba and Obata, the same writing artist pair that made Death Note. But unlike Death Note, it is a relatively cheerful story about two boys whose dream is to be serialized in Shonen Jump. And something that series made clear was just how much influence the editor you are assigned has on the direction and content of your manga.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And when I learned that the single chapter of Death Note that contains a naked woman in the shower made sense to me for the first time.
So let me ask you something. Have you ever heard of Hunter's Guild Red Hood?
I have not, please.
So this is a manga where the first few chapters are like, they're following the main character who's teamed up with this woman named Red, one of the thickest women to ever be drawn to Shonen Jump. And
high praise, Jesus.
oh, it's amazing. The art's fantastic. It's amazing.
It is impressive.
No cap. But anyway, at one point, he just leaves, goes on a boat, and there's an exam arc, and it destroys the momentum of the entire fucking comic. So in the last few chapters, a character walks up to Red and is like, what happened? You used to be a better character. What's going on? And then the whole thing just devolves into this extremely meta situation where it can be easily read as the author lashing out at his editor and blaming him for the manga going downhill. So yeah, that's what I think of whenever anybody talks about editors. But hey, we're not talking about Red Hood. You can listen to that episode. That's another episode. We're talking about Super Dog Rilienthal. This ran for 32 chapters and it had an epilogue.
Was the epilogue also released in Weekly Jump, or was that like serialization only?
It says 32 chapters plus epilogue. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Did we read
it? Did we read
the epilogue?
The epilogue is Tetsuko's grade school graduation.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then we did. Yeah.
That was chapter. It's listed as 33 on the website.
Oh, yeah. You're right. Let's get into the plot description, though.
The Hino sibling, Tetsuko and Ani, wait for their parents to return from a trip when someone approaches with a box, saying that they're not coming. Instead, they're getting a new little brother who is actually in this very box. His name is Rilienthal, and he is an intelligent talking dog. Ani accepts him pretty quickly, but Tetsuko doesn't because she doesn't want the family to be weird. On the bus ride home, they're attacked by men in black looking for something called RD1. Rilienthal starts glowing, and suddenly a little girl's book about the ocean comes to life. The entire bus is submerged in the abyss as a sea monster attacks. Rilienthal is RD1.
What?
I know, it's shocking. Even though they found his box and said, I think RD1 was in this box. And his power is to take people's innermost desires and make them real. I think, kind of. Eventually, by calming down the little girl, they're able to return to the real world. Tetsuko then knocks out the bad guys with kung fu, and Ani dismantles their guns because she is a martial arts master and he is a mechanical genius. They exit the bus to find that they landed right outside their house. Next, Tetsuko, who refuses to go to school, wants to dodge her teacher, so a bunch of steps open up in the house, leading them way past where it should end. While watching TV, Ani feels bad that Rilienthal is alone, and so the main character of the show they're watching, Lightning Mitsuhiko, pops out of the TV. He's followed by Gomuzo, a balloon soldier who is Mitsuhiko's enemy. A fight ensues, and Gomuzo ends up being Rilienthal's friend, as Mitsuhiko, also his friend, goes back to the TV world. Popcorn Jordan.
Akira, one of the men in black from earlier who I forgot to mention, comes by to try and kidnap Rilienthal again, but Rilienthal and Tetsuko are having a super cat drawing contest where like they're both drawing weird cats and then they're like, no, my cat's stronger, my cat would beat your cat.
My cat has laser beams that make you go to sleep. Well, my cat'll eat anything and can't sleep.
Yeah, and of course, due to Rilienthal's powers, they come to life. Long story short, Akira ends up being flown back home with a new friend, Space Cat. Ani and Tetsuko's next-door neighbors, twins, Sakura and Yuki, come over to welcome them back, and Yuki tells Tetsuko a scary story about a haunted ship. Suddenly, Tetsuko, Ani, Rilienthal, and Sakura are transported to a haunted ship, where they meet a young ghost girl named Marie.
Hey, Marie!
Marie, get over here! Rilienthal invites her to live in their house, so they just have a ghost living at their house from this point on.
It happens a lot.
Oh, hey, you seem like you'd be fun to have around. Here, live in our infinite house.
I have stuff to say about that, but continue.
Ani is then kidnapped by Shinchi and Lowrise, the men in black. Shinchi and Rilienthal play chess against each other for the fate of RD1. They play very poorly, ending in a draw. They become friendly rivals and smirk at each other. Rilienthal goes to the library to get books on chess so he can get better at it. When Tetsuko runs into Usami, who gets incredibly jealous of her since she is there with Sakura, who she has a crush on. Usami tells Tetsuko that she is weird, which leads to a massive giant coming to attack Tetsuko. Gomuzo sacrifices himself to protect Rilienthal, and it is revealed that Tetsuko is the source of this giant. She grew up going on trips with her parents, and they spent a lot of time living and foraging in the jungle. So when she finally went to school, she just ate a bug, and everyone thought that was weird, and she felt real bad about that and stopped going to school. So now being called weird is like her biggest fear. The giant then disappears. Back home, Rilienthal creates a new magic room, which can create rooms if you draw them on paper first, and they can connect to anywhere if you can picture them clearly. It is complicated. The Hino family is then attacked by Reiichiro and his servant Olga, who work for the Men in Black. Reiichiro hates Ani, who has no clue who the fuck he is, because they were both child prodigies who went to college at a young age, and people said Ani was smarter than him. Ani and Tetsuko kick their asses and call a truce. Next, Rilienthal is still devastated over Gomuzo, his best friend, and so decides to go into Lightning Mitsuhiko's world to get the evil witch Kanarine to fix him. This is complicated, and this is a long plot summary. Popcorn Dylan.
Lightning Mitsuhiko takes him to Kanarine, and she is total down bad goblin mode for Mitsuhiko, but Mitsuhiko has, or both of them really have zero goddamn game, and
Zero.
they are not getting each other's signals. It is way
Mitsuhiko
off.
is Volcel, I think.
Oh, God, you know what? That might be it.
He's like, my vows. He's like a paladin.
That tracks, actually, yeah.
Yeah, he's a paladin. Or...
Mitsuhiko only has eyes for justice.
Justice, thank you.
Justice.
Which is the 8th deadly sin. That's right. Okay.
Kanarine agrees to fix Gomuzo as long as Lightning Mitsuhiko can stay with her. And Rilienthal is happy as long as he knows that Gomuzo is safe, so he returns to his world. Soon, the boss of the Men in Black appears, and he is fucking crazy powerful and magic and shit.
Crazy!
Just fucking like teleports, and he has these technological scars on his face like he's the elusive man.
Yeah, he makes black holes and shit.
It goes 0 to 60 very quickly.
Oh,
yes.
I wonder if someone might not have indicated to the author that his series was about to end and that he should wrap it up.
The boss of the Men in Black injures Space Cat and captures Rilienthal,
Fucking dare they!
taking him back to his space pocket dimension headquarters, where he reveals that Rilienthal's brother RD0, who's like a weird black mass.
Yeah, it's kind of Akira.
Yeah, kind of Akira.
An Akira abomination, I would say. It's a Tetsuo, sort of.
Yeah, he gave the boss immortality. By combining together, they will rule the world in, I don't know, human instrumentality.
Human instrumentality, maybe? It kind of got Third Impact vibes. I don't know.
I didn't even get anything that precise from it. I just...
Yeah, just kind of rule the world, honestly. Like, just...
To bring us back beyond our mortal shells.
Yeah,
and to the next level where yin and yang are one.
Yeah, he does talk about like ascending humanity. The thread is not exceptionally well defined.
Not quite. The gang gets on a bus sitting outside their house from Chapter 1, which was sitting there the whole damn time, and it turns into a magic spaceship, sadly without Miss Frizzle.
Yeah.
They travel to the boss's headquarters. A very complicated fight that kind of jumps all over the place happens. Everyone is there, including Space Cat and Lightning Mitsuhiko. Some guys that were like a background character in 4 other panels show up, and they've got guns and are now helping.
There are no background characters in Super Dog Rilienthal. Everyone gets to participate.
It is true.
Everyone participates. Everyone is instrumental. Kanarine even gives Yuki powers and weird little devil horn hats.
Sure.
Because she gets devil horns all the time, and then hats appear on them. It's weird.
Yeah.
And Tetsuko summons the giant from earlier, who was the spirit of her, I don't know, self-loathing.
I guess.
But it punches the boss to death because originally it was a black demon, and now it was a white demon. Because black is bad and white is good, that's kind of gross.
Oh boy, that's
I was imagining a sort of murky blue and then the latter one just glowing, if we want to move it away from a frame of reference. Well, there's no color, it's a manga.
That's a better way to look at it. I'm gonna go with that.
That's a much more generous way to look at it. And then the administrative head of the Men in Black, Mr. Subane, who hasn't really been mentioned before, but was totally there the whole time, is given control of the Men in Black, and then the boss just fucking dies. During the epilogue, Tetsuko graduates from elementary school. By the way, she is an 11-year-old who is strong enough to rip steel cables out of a wall. We'll get into that later.
Yeah.
And she smiles for the first time.
Thank God. Good for her.
Also, RD stands for like realized device or realization device.
Because he makes it real.
Yeah, he makes it real, and he makes one thing real. RD0 makes nothing real, so yin and yang.
I was unclear on the distinction. Now, it should be reification device. That's neither here nor there. I was unclear on the distinction between RD0's capacities versus RD1's. We can talk about that when we talk about the end more generally.
It's almost like that whole section was very unclear and confusing.
Honestly, the summary, despite being all over the place, still made more sense than the manga most of the time.
Boom! Bam! Take that, author!
There is a page, or there's a few panels from one of the final pages of the manga, which I screenshotted when I was reading it. It seemed very apt. The boss looking back and forth across the fight with all of these characters, and he thinks, what in the world is happening? Yeah, I often found myself asking that as well. It shows the balloon soldier and the stupid little cartoon dog, Rilienthal, riding on him. Now, Rilienthal is not a normal dog. Like, I got the impression, I don't know, was your impression that he looked the way that dogs in this world usually look?
You know, they didn't draw any other dogs.
No, there's no other dogs. I was waiting for them to...
So I got no fucking clue.
So here's the thing. They didn't draw any other dogs, but they did have a real cat at one point, just in like one panel. It was all curled up and adorable.
Right, and the cat looked real.
A real cat, right.
The cat looked real. So I can only assume that the dogs in that world look real.
Right, like when they are leaving the airport in the opening chapter, Tetsuko says, who's embarrassed at the prospect of having a talking dog as younger brother, says to pretend that Rilienthal is a stuffed animal, as opposed to just being their dog, which kind of suggests that he looks chibi like that in real life. He's got the lips.
Oh God, does he hate the stupid duck face though? Oh no.
Yeah.
The fucking duck face!
Perpetually pouting. He's always puckering his lips. And that even includes when he smiles, which contorts his smile into this sort of leer that Tetsuko and myself both reacted negatively to.
It makes me feel, ugh.
I'm really
What's the phrase? He's constantly, is it mewing? Is that the...
What?
Oh, you don't know what mewing is?
I guess not. It's a sound that cats make. Mewing is a face reconstruction technique that involves keeping your tongue on the roof of your mouth, change your jawline's shape.
I want to say it's like a new manosphere way to make to give you a Chad chin.
Oh, it's a man thing.
I think.
I have no idea. I've only ever seen people dunking on selfies of people that are doing that, so I've got no idea.
Yeah.
But that could very plausibly be what Rilienthal is doing.
He wants to give himself that masculine jaw.
Oh, yeah. You know, all the ladies love a dog.
For a character who is as prominent in the narrative as he is, we don't necessarily get a lot of information about, like, his goal.
No, well, his goal is just to be a little brother, I guess.
It's true, he's good and sweet, and he has the most pure heart, which is why every time he interacts with a villain, he can't possibly bear to do anything bad to them, and every antagonist is immediately won over and decides to join the Hino family's side and, in many occasions, live with them.
Oh, yeah, and we'll be discussing that in a bit.
I groaned when Wilbur showed up, Shinshi Wilbur showed up and said, well, we were kicked out of the organization. Can we live with you?
Which never gets a name.
No, they do. They almost name it. They almost fucking name it. They're not even willing to commit to it when they say it, though. Because Wilbur is telling them about the organization. They're like, what's it called? He says, it has no name, but also I've heard it called the Organization of the Third Will.
Yeah, you're right.
But they don't commit to that. They don't stick to that because they don't stick to anything that might characterize the organization in a more concrete way that would keep them from using it as a blanket plot device anytime they need stakes. Who's the organization? Everybody. Where do they operate? Everything. What do they do? Secret stuff.
It's like they're literally the Men in Black.
That was kind of it.
Like, that's just vague. They're just the Men in Black.
They use the word alien eventually. That one, the prodigy kid who has a one-sided rivalry with Ani, whose name I just wrote down as Shindo, but that's just his family name. And his Reiichiro, I think, was his given name in the summary.
Yeah, Reiichiro.
In the finale, he's like, well, I joined this organization because I thought it was going to be prestigious. But now that I've met the boss, I see that he's some sort of weird alien creature. And that's the only time they use the word alien, so maybe it has something to do with alien.
Except he wasn't originally an alien. He was only that after absorbing RD0. He was just a dude. He was just an old guy.
I don't know what word they used. Usually alien is uchujin, which does mean a person from outer space, which wouldn't fit with the boss because he's a human. He just used, I mean, I don't know, maybe RD1 and 0 are extraterrestrial in origin.
That would have been something.
It would have been nice if they elaborate on that.
Instead, they're just like a certain scientist in a certain lab had creation.
It's so strange that Tetsuko and Ani's parents never appear.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
They never show up.
That was our guesses.
It's like we Rilienthal's chief character relationship, except for the extent to which he sort of establishes one with Tetsuko just by being her younger brother and externalizing all of her worst fears, which isn't necessarily super constructive.
No.
His strongest character relationship is with their father because he's like, oh, I was alone on the concrete floor and then Professor Hino saved me.
That's definitely what he sounds like when he talks.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
When y'all signed me this manga to read months ago, I was helping a friend move and I had it open on my laptop and I kept on reading Rilienthal in lines in that voice and pissing her off.
It's either that voice or, hi, I'm Rilienthal. It's one or the other.
I was reading it as Gilbert Gottfried, so kind of like the squawky little guy that he is. But honestly,
it's nice to meet you.
Good Gilbert Gottfried.
Thank you. Voice acting is a passion of mine.
Nice. Oh, man. But yeah, we're supposed to be talking about the characters right now. Sorry, everybody.
By all means.
David's not here. So, like...
We're going to be a little off track.
So, like, the only person who went to business school is not here. So the whole structure's falling the fuck apart. We already talked about Rilienthal. Let's talk about Tetsuko.
Indeed.
So yeah, Tetsuko, who is the world's strongest and most foul-mouthed 11-year-old.
Is the foul-mouthedness native to the original script, or is that a contrivance of the localizer?
I'm really curious about that. I want to take a look at that.
Probably not.
Because in the first chapter, I'm fairly certain she dropped a fuck bomb.
She definitely says shit. They say shit a lot.
They say shit a lot. I'm pretty certain she dropped a fuck bomb.
There are fucks and shits all over this fucking manga.
Yeah, she is, honestly, I feel like she's the real main character.
Absolutely. You are correct.
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, she's the one that undergoes the most actual growth and change as a character, while the rest of them receive elaboration on who they are. Yeah, she's a self-loathing little kid who decides, who grows up and eventually smiles. And hold on, I tried to do the math and I lost my notes on that for exactly how strong she is, because she was tied up to a wall at one point with a steel cable that could hold over 2,000 pounds. Now, the steel cable, that's fine. She didn't break the steel cable when she broke free. She ripped concrete anchors out of the wall.
Yes.
Which is like way easier.
Not necessarily.
That's
because
easy, right? You guys can't
the
do
thing
that?
is that the wall came off in chunks, as opposed to her ripping the anchors out of the wall.
Right.
The chunk of wall she was chained to came off. And now I'm not a STEM major, so I can't comment on how much force would be required.
So you got the square cube law, first of all, with the amount of force being applied to the anchors, because, you know, 2 anchors, I don't know, I could say, and she could probably lift a bus. That's about a rough guess.
Probably. I mean, you know, based on what she did, probably.
Because she just kind of flexed a little. That's all she did. She released like 1% of her power.
It was very shonen in a series that is otherwise mostly about a funny cartoon animal.
She has the power of early Dragon Ball Goku, basically.
Yeah.
Has seen Dragon Ball voice. Yes, I agree. Yeah, I think that Tetsuko is absolutely the most well-realized character.
Yes.
And the core character relationship of the series, which is awash with characters, is really just Tetsuko and Rilienthal. She's very serious and he's very silly, and she wants to be perceived normally, and he is a ridiculous creature.
I will say, like, at first, I didn't really like her. The more I got of her backstory, I warmed up to her. I started, like, liking her more. I understood her more.
See, I liked her instantly because I also was creeped out by the design of Rilienthal. And she has an immediately negative reaction to how he looks.
That's fair. That's very fair.
I do wonder whether the character of Ani, because it's actually mentioned in our notes that Ani is kind of a non-name for an older brother character. Older brother Aniki. I do wonder if Ani was always even a character, or whether it wasn't just going to be a story about a very serious young girl and her magical talking dog. And if somebody at Jump didn't say to the author, nah, you gotta get a boy in here. Come on, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Because he doesn't do anything. He has no internal conflict. The whole point of chapter 3, where Lightning Mitsuhiko comes out of the television, is that they leave Rilienthal at home with Ani because Ani has no inner life. And so none of his personal demons possibly be manifest through the power of Rilienthal.
If Ani was a woman, it would be a misogynistic depiction. You know what I mean?
The homemaking non-character who just kind of exists.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a great characterization.
That's the whole thing.
The only time they tried to even develop him was when the rival shows up and is like, well, this is exactly how smart you were when you graduated college at 11 years old.
And Ani doesn't know him.
Like, I
did think that was kind of funny. It was just like, Ani has no clue who the fuck this guy is. He legitimately doesn't. It isn't even like he forgot. They weren't in fucking school together.
That chapter is also one of, I believe, only 2 times that Ani actually uses his cool power that he has.
Yes!
Like, Tetsuko's very strong.
Yep.
Ani's thing, as introduced in the opening chapter, is that he can dismantle any machine. He dismantles the guns that the bad guys have in the first chapter because this manga has a hard time with proportionality of stakes. And yeah, he dismantles young Master Shindo's weirdo aircraft. Let me confirm that is his name. Yes, it's Shindo.
It's Shindo. You got it.
And as I have notes here in a little leather-bound notebook.
Oh, cool.
Fancy.
Yeah, I carry it around with me in public so I can appear extremely insufferable to strangers.
Is it a moleskin?
Yeah.
Nice. I went to art school. I know all about the moleskin.
Yeah, I also went to art school. That's one of exactly 2 times. I don't know that he even uses his power in the finale, because maybe he busts open the machine housing RD0.
He does. I think he does. I'm pretty sure that he does. Of course,
3 times.
The ending is very confusing, so I understand if you miss something.
I remembered it being busted open. I did not recall who took responsibility for that event.
In fact, Dylan, do you think you could talk about some aspects of this series that might have led to it failing?
Are you saying we should move on to why it failed?
Yes.
So why this failed? This is a very interesting series with, I'm fairly certain there was an editorial change at some point regarding this that made the tone shift kind of massively at one point, because this series is very inconsistent, not only with the translation that we had, but with the overall tone story, because the first handful, I'd say like 5 or so, maybe 5 to 7 chapters, it was very like almost like a PBS Kids show.
Yeah.
That's a good comparison.
And then suddenly...
Are you thinking of the ghost story starting in chapter 6? Or
I think that's probably where it started to actually have some more mature elements.
Child who starved to death alone at sea.
Yeah.
I love the idea that they went to the author and were like, you got to make this like a little darker. So he's like, all right, well,
child death.
Fucking child death ghost story. How about that?
Child death ghost story, and then adding further to the character bloat.
I know, indeed.
Oh.
I would characterize it as narrative flotsam. Just every story adds a new character or a new feature to the plot, like the bus or the stairs that lead to nowhere in the house, that reappears in every subsequent story. That it's not enough that we have this funny thing about Space Cat, but now Space Cat is permanently tagging along with one of the not quite antagonists. The ghost and her doll are living here now. We're going to have some whole chapter where we just play around with her ghost powers. Wilbur wants to play chess, and now he's showing up every 5 seconds. Yeah, the neighbors and Shindo and Olga and Rilienthal's flyer and Lightning Mitsuhiko and the fucking balloon soldier who can't even talk. And I thought when the balloon soldier was popped, when it was destroyed during the Tetsuko trauma arc, I was like, oh, that makes perfect sense. Maybe somebody had a word with the author and let him know the character count was getting a little too high. He decided the balloon soldier was like maybe the most disposable character in the cast. But then the balloon soldier is resurrected thereafter.
Yeah.
It is absolutely nuts how this author really had no restraint. I think if they condensed all of the characters into, there are 10 characters maybe, who all get their own individual pages and names and very minor characterization. If they condensed that into, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4, probably would have helped a lot because, oh boy, that was a lot with especially the art style, making it hard at times to differentiate who was doing or saying what.
Well, it's also like you can have characters show up and then not have them live in their house.
No, impossible.
Not everyone has to move into the house. They all have to be relevant in every single chapter, except for Marie, who only shows up like twice.
Marie doesn't do shit.
I groaned when Wilbur the gentleman showed back up and said, "We're moving in."
Yeah, like, come on.
I not only found his characterization extremely tiresome in like a juvenile way, it's like, oh, I'm a gentleman, I enjoy the finer things, but also he is the most prominent narrative representative of the organization, which was the aspect of the series which I liked the least.
Oh god,
yeah,
the organization was
extremely ill-defined,
and it felt like overall just a waste.
Yeah.
However, he was from the European branch, which they described as a bunch of lazy fancy boys.
He had lightning-shaped hair, even though he's not Lightning Mitsuhiko. That's a different character who does not have lightning-shaped hair.
It just feels like his whole thing was so fucking vaguely defined, like everything else. Like,
I did, however, he had a lot of lines, and I kept imagining them being read in, like, the Team 4-star version of Cooler in that particular voice.
I know what you mean.
When you were talking about how rapidly it introduced characters in the early series, and also that it's okay for minor characters to be minor, especially with how episodic this series is at the beginning. I was thinking about something like Bleach, which early on, before it just becomes a manga about every man fighting every other man, early on works hard to establish that sort of monster of the week formula.
Yeah.
Here's our main character. Here's Rukia. She's living with him. He has a family, whatever, they're minor characters. He has a friend, and he has a love interest. And then there's various people at school. These are our characters. Now that we've established the characters, here's a ghost. Here's a ghost. He has to fight them. He has to do the thing. And it, like, chapter by chapter introduces additional wrinkles to the premise, but not full additional characters.
Yeah, that is a much better way to approach an ensemble-based medium than every single chapter introducing new people, not developing on them, and then forcing them into this already stuffed sausage casing until the ends start to leak.
Also, speaking of vaguely defined, I was so confused by Rilienthal's powers a lot of the time.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Like, at first it's like, the powers happen and then they disappear and it's over. But then they have that room in their house that was, like, created by Rilienthal and is, like, just a magical room. And that's there the whole time.
Yeah, and the ghost that he creates is there the whole time. And even though he created her, because, like, I don't know whether or not ghosts are supposed to be real in the fiction of this story, but certainly that was not the real ghost from the story. That was a story that was invented by, or that was a ghost that was invented by Rilienthal's power. And yet somebody, I think Yuki, talks about, it's like, oh, are we sure we want to hang out with her? She
killed people, yeah.
Yeah.
No, she didn't. It was a story. It was imaginary. It was in Sakura's imagination.
Yeah, for example, when someone confronts the whatever reason for the thing existing, it does usually then dissipate. For example, like the giant ghost.
Yeah.
However, then you have things like Space Cat, who is there the entire time.
Space Cat's there the whole fucking time.
And also has his own personality and exists outside of Rilienthal. Rilienthal doesn't even know that Space Cat is a thing until later.
You raise a very important point here because Space Cat comes from Rilienthal's own imagination.
That's true, which he explicitly said can't happen, right? Like,
but Space Cat was also drawn on paper, just like the Eternal Room.
Oh, so what, like Tetsuko was imagining him and then her imagination of him was projected into reality? Right. Rilienthal is some sort of like a psychic conduit that reacts completely involuntarily. He literally compares it to pissing the bed.
He does! does.
that reacts to the emotions in the hearts of the children around him and makes those things real, which we were talking briefly before we started, is often negative. It's often a bad or a scary thing that the child is thinking about or feeling that he makes real, which is a very intriguing concept for like an antagonist of a manga series.
Yeah.
It's like, ooh, how can you fight somebody who can peer into your heart and see what you fear most and then reify that? But not only is he a protagonist, but it's done completely involuntarily and often quite destructively.
Yeah, that would have been a very interesting idea if that were, say, RD0's ability, where RD0 is the negative in men's hearts, whereas RD1 could be the positive, and he would make positive emotions and thoughts manifest instead.
That would be such a good way of contrasting his ability from RD0's, because they don't really do that.
I don't know what the fuck RD0 does.
So RD0, the boss of the organization, who's named the boss of the organization called The Organization, eminently creatively named.
I was gonna say, did they ever give him a name?
No.
They did give him they did mention. They mentioned his name at one point. The guy that took over called him by name at one point, but I can't be arsed.
Okay.
I can't either.
But yeah, the boss says that RD0's power is like RD1's, but it's lesser, which whatever that means. And during the fight, he commands RD0's power, and he says he's going to make up for its lack of quality with quantity. And then he just summons a bunch of like alien soldiers. So if we extend the author the most leeway that a reader is able to extend, we can imagine that like that maybe it's only capable of manifesting one thing, because the soldiers he summons do also kind of look like his weird transformed alien body. There's like also a couple copies of him, the boss.
There are copies of him, yeah.
Right. Maybe each of those soldiers is also him. Maybe RD0 was like only able to respond to his wish to be young and strong and perfect. And all it could do was reduplicate that wish over and over and over again. It's a shame that I understand why, because it's a child series, but it's a shame that we don't see RD0 or Rilienthal react to adults more often, because adults generally have more complex and deeper and, dare I say, more dangerous thoughts and desires than children. So if you want to introduce a threat into your series...
That would definitely be a good way to do it.
We could clearly talk about the why it failed section forever, which is a bad sign. But let's talk about what it did well. Tessa.
Yes.
You didn't hate everything about this series, right?
No, I did not hate everything about the series, and I think that there are absolutely things to admire here. We touched already on the idea that Tetsuko, Rilienthal's older sister, is the best characterized and most realized figure in the series. And indeed, in addition to her being the strongest written character, I thought the series was at its strongest during the, 6-chapter arc in which Rilienthal manifests her fear and anxiety about fitting in.
Was that really 6 whole chapters?
Yeah.
It was 6 chapters. It was chapters 14 through 19. Because that was a manifestation of Rilienthal's power that taught us something about a prominent character that deepened our understanding of her. And that manifestation of his power externalized an internal conflict of hers so that it could be resolved in a more visually sensationalist way, like fighting a big monster, rather than like, Tetsuko going to therapy or something. And I think that that's a very strong concept, because one of the things that I expected to happen, didn't necessarily happen especially often, was for Rilienthal to manifest the more troubled emotional experiences that adolescents go through. And while they didn't do it often, I think the one time they did it, it worked very well. And
I agree.
You also talked about, I think it was Dylan who mentioned Tetsuko also having the only real character journey. Yeah, because she is someone who takes herself very seriously, is a very dedicated person to her martial arts and to maintaining her public image.
Very powerful child.
Yes.
Unbelievably strong child.
In a way that children sometimes are. When you're a child, you're weak and you're not taken very seriously. And so I think it makes perfect sense for a child to want to strengthen their public perception in that way. And yeah, hers is the character journey. She goes from being repulsed by Rilienthal, resenting his incorporation into her family, trying to disguise him from people she knows, which there's really no need to, because everyone who sees him says, wow, is that a talking dog? That's incredible. I love him. Right? Nothing less from the Hino family.
Yeah, no conflict there.
No. To, mean, the raising of the stakes for the 6 or 7 part finale, depending on whether you include the epilogue, is somewhat sudden, but she's upset when he's kidnapped and she works hard to rescue him. And he actually manages to put something of a bow on her core character conflict about not fitting in when he comes to her grade school graduation ceremony in the final chapter. And I thought that was very good. Now, that sort of character relationship dynamic is admittedly perhaps a somewhat more heavy premise for a child's manga. And I know, it's Shonen Jump and they have to show big fights and the kids want to see action. Mercifully, there's no fan service in this series.
Oh, thank God,
right?
God.
Right. So I understand why the headier concept of child and cartoon dog character relationship story was not the focus of the series. But I think that if it had been, and if this series was running in a publication that would have allowed them to explore that, I think it would have been much better.
I agree with you that like the parts with Rilienthal and Tetsuko, where Tetsuko is experiencing this kind of growth, I do think that those are the strongest parts. Like we go into her backstory and it's sad and it's relatable too, where it's like, oh, I see why she's obsessed with not being called weird. Specifically, it goes to a very specific trauma that she had, and now she's all alone. And like, no, it makes sense. It really endeared me to the character. It made me want to see things turn out better for her. And then when it changes where she starts to care about Rilienthal, it really is, as you said, like a sign of her growth. Yeah. And you just want to be like, yeah, Tesco. Yeah, Tesco. Like the fucking place in England. The fucking store.
I really like Tetsuko as a name.
Yeah.
For the character. Because it's like, you guys know about Iron Man Tetsuo, right?
Oh, yeah.
Just Iron Girl.
There you go. Yeah, hey.
And I thought that was cute. You know what? I didn't remember Ani's name, because I read this months ago before I reread it prior to this recording. I didn't remember Ani's name. I remembered Tetsuko's name.
And Ani's name is a lot simpler.
Yeah. On Tetsuko being like the main character, there was one particular panel that I fucking loved. And it was in, let me see here, I actually wrote it down. In chapter 14, when the bratty little bitch girl calls Tetsuko weird. The word bubble
it stabs
punches a hole through her chest. That was fucking awesome. I loved that.
And then the next panel showed her with a bandage over her chest.
One of the most fun things in this manga. I wish they would have done more of that.
I also thought that interpersonal conflict with Usami, her peer, while it may have been kind of pedestrian, it's like, oh, Usami has a crush on the boy that Tetsuko is friends with, was strongly delivered. And more strongly, it needs to be said, than the big, spectacular set pieces that Rilienthal's power keeps summoning.
Yes.
I thought, oh, this author can deliver on character interaction stories. This is, although a simple dynamic, a compelling one. Well, let's, in the next chapter, we'll give Rilienthal a bike.
So before we move on to the next section, because this has been going long because David isn't here to make sure that things stick to proper time, we have to talk about Lightning Mitsuhiko.
Do we?
We do.
Okay.
Love that guy.
Top knot king.
Top knot king.
Indeed.
He's just this cool samurai guy.
Except he's wearing, samurai in plate armor.
Yep.
Yes.
There's also one tiny little thing that I appreciate. It's a nice little background detail that you see a lot in manga, but I just appreciated the fact that, even though they didn't draw many backgrounds, this is something included in the gang's hideout. There's an arowana, a tank full of arowana in the background. Yeah. And
arowana? Thought you were just mispronouncing marijuana.
I mean, that's one way to. So, arowanas are a South American fish heavily prized in like the criminal underworld, where some can reach 6-7 figures for a single fish.
Damn.
There have been heists to steal them from aquariums.
Whoa.
If you have multiple arowana in a tank in your big bad guy lair, that is a sign of we are very wealthy and resourceful. Do not fuck with us. That is a small thing. When reviewing Pretty Wing or Birdie Wing Golf Girl story, I think on Animated Context, that was something I also mentioned. They had like an entire wall-sized tank for a single arowana, and that was supposed to be a mildly dangerous organization. Meanwhile, with the organization here, they had a smaller tank filled with arowana.
Damn.
Nice little touch.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What was the organization here called again?
13.
I liked Lightning Mitsuhiko's brother, who uses 80% of his abilities to look at women. I found that figure to be very relatable.
Oh my god. I don't know what his abilities are, but they enable him to look at women.
Holding his two fingers to either temple, just staring.
So it mentions he can run at Mach 2.5, so 2.5 times the speed of sound, which means he is using 80% of that ability, that speed, to gawk at women, which means he is constantly staring at people.
Yeah, how terrifying.
Oh my god.
He also wears Western clothes, but from a different era from Lightning Mitsuhiko's armor. It's ridiculous.
Oh, he was a gambler. He has to have that kind of almost Darby-esque.
Ah, Darbesque.
I see, yeah.
All right, what's the next section?
All right, so the next section is where it could have gone.
Jordan, take it away.
Okay, so I would have liked to have seen what the fuck their parents were doing at this time. I feel like that was going to be somewhat relevant. It just feels like they were Cow and Chicken's parents, basically.
I think the parents in Cow and Chicken had a bit more agency.
That's fair. They were more of characters.
They did actually start different storylines aside from just a single one.
Cat Dog's parents.
Hey, there we go.
Arnold's parents from Hey Arnold.
I thought they were dead.
Were they dead? I thought they just abandoned him.
I don't know. He was being raised by his grandparents.
I don't remember. There was like a whole TV movie about it, and I don't remember what happened.
They disappeared on a humanitarian mission to San Lorenzo.
Yeah.
They're gone. They disappeared.
They're gone, yeah.
They got fridged.
They disappeared. Like, there's one thing where I think it was implied that, like, Reiichiro caused them to run away.
The father worked for the organization.
He was interacting with Rilienthal in a professional capacity before he sprung him.
Yeah. And his empathy is what caused him. So their father's a bad man.
Indeed. But I don't know how he was working for the organization when he was jet setting around the planet for his entire life.
This genius wife.
Yeah, both of them were geniuses, so they were probably doing some very bad things.
Yes.
Some very twisted experiments. However, the father at least had some sort of empathy, which is why he broke Rilienthal out, which it would have been nice to at least elaborate on the parents. Like, did the organization kill them once they realized? Except we know the organization didn't realize that the Hinos were responsible until much later.
Yeah.
Can I just say the panels with Rilienthal remembering what it was like, where he's just crying and holding onto a blanket, were like genuinely so sad.
There are a couple panels that even, because there's an issue with inconsistency of tone in this series, to be sure, but
what?
There were panels where that cropped up, right? Like seeing this torture chamber, this solitary confinement cell block, and is a cute little cartoon dog with kissy lips lying on the floor. Just such cognitive dissonance, even to interpret the image.
Just sobbing and shaking.
Oh, I would have loved if...
Oh, God.
Specifically in those panels, Rilienthal was drawn hyper-realistic.
Like a realistic dog.
That would be like how he sees himself until he sees a human that shows him kindness, and then he adopts mannerisms and an overall thing that make him appear more human. Would have been an interesting shift.
Yeah, like maybe he was like actively trying to appear more human based on like the things he did, you know? It was
because in the finale they did explain that's not his true form. I don't know, like he was put in there somehow.
He's like given life. He's the RDO1 that's like given a body and personality. I don't know, it's sort of
I feel like they did it just
heady and mysterious.
Just cuz like they were like we gave it like sentience to hide it.
Maybe he was originally a plush that they then forced it into.
Maybe. Be interesting.
That would have been so cute if they showed them sewing that little orb, the Hogyoku. They showed them sewing it up inside a little stuffed animal, and then it came to life.
Oh, that would have explained so much about his appearance and...
Like a Build-A-Bear!
Oh, that would have been great! Oh.
I do think that, like, the finale shows what the series could have built to. The finale definitely happens very suddenly. It reminded me of the finale of Star Trek Enterprise, the last and the least positively remembered of the 90s Star Trek series.
Oh, nice.
That got axed at least 2 seasons before they were expecting it to be canceled.
People talk more about Voyager than that. Doesn't it end with the revelation that it was like Riker's dream or something?
Only that episode is a holodeck program conducted by Riker during a very good episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, but I got ahead of myself. So for the finale episode, they skip ahead 3 years. Like, this is the ending we would have done if we were given enough time to end the show. And like, there's status quo changes that they just have to bring up. It's like, oh yeah, this character died. This character's life changed in this way. Because this is stuff that they wanted to do. They were planning for the future, but didn't have time to.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah, the ending of Rilienthal feels very similar to me, where the author, as ill-constructed as the narrative arc, for lack of a better word, might be, was trying to build towards something, got told that the series was ending, and then had to tie everything together quickly.
Yeah, because, like, it's like suddenly there is a magical, violent wizard who just shows up, a sci-fi wizard.
Suddenly there's the first antagonist who does not immediately cede to Rilienthal's side.
I feel like he eventually does at the end, though.
Well, when he's disintegrating?
Yeah, when he's disintegrating, I feel like he does right before he died.
I think as he disintegrated, that's why he named the other guy as his successor.
If this were a different manga, he would have said, "I lost completely," and smiled as he disintegrated.
That would have been a little bit of a better way to approach it. And then the guy would like step up and say, all right, this has gone on too far. This is not the organization that we joined. We're taking a couple steps back and refocusing the goals of our nebulously evil group.
Hey, listen, when I joined an evil organization, I didn't know it was going to be wacky evil.
I didn't know we were going to do some transhumanist bullshit. I thought we were just going to rob a few banks.
I knew we were as evil. I didn't know we was like this evil. Goddamn.
I just joined because we all wore some cool sunglasses.
Aliens, I guess that's where he draws the line.
Yeah. Oh man, I feel like another big issue is it does spend too much time with the organization.
Yes.
You have so many characters just in that one little house. You're gonna have like a bunch more on the side that you're gonna take focus away to look at them.
Yeah.
And it's the least interesting thing they could show because the organization, the people in it are so poorly defined, because then it wouldn't be as utilitarian a plot device.
Now, if they'd condensed, say, the entire organization to 2 or 3 people and made it more of like a Team Rocket type thing.
Yeah.
Why does Wilbur even have his sidekick Low Rise? Why?
Because he's proven to be the smarter and more capable of the two, but because he doesn't have ambition, he's the low-rising one.
That's a funny character dynamic, to have the fancy pompous guy who's actually very inept and is slacker best friend who manages everything for him. That's a funny idea in a series that already had introduced and would go on to introduce so many other big characters.
Oh, God.
I think it is a bit much.
Oh, God.
And their boss. It was just them and their boss. That would have been fucking awesome.
Yes. Yeah. Although they're kicked out of the organization, so they don't be just the boss.
Yeah.
Oh, did you have something you wanted to say about the guns?
Yes, we'll get to that in miscellaneous thoughts. And speaking of which, I think we've kind of discussed where we would have liked to have seen the manga go. So how about we move on over to our miscellaneous thoughts? So Tessa, did you have anything that you'd want to start us off with?
I think that just generally, the manga is, to its detriment, less interested in establishing stakes or forming a cohesive narrative arc, and more just wants to show cool set pieces. And like I said, I thought it was at its best when managing interesting character relationship, and at its worst when it was on a rolling tour of every cool guy the author could think of.
I wonder if the author's going to reuse some of these characters.
It sounded like he did in the next series, yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'll check out World Trigger and see if there's like a dog that can like manifest people's insecurities.
I was briefly terrified reviewing the notes for this episode and seeing that under the header World Trigger connections, there was a chapter 82 mentioned. And I thought, oh God, did I miss half of this series? But no, it's a different series, chapter 82.
I don't think we would cover anything that long.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we better fucking not.
Oh yeah, here's a miscellaneous thought. I found, it might just be because of how much text there was, it seemed to me that compared to other shonen series specifically, the characters were often drawn quite small in the frame.
Yeah.
Because there were a couple panels, very rarely, very seldom, where character art took up like as much as half the page and the proportions got a little weird. So I wonder if it wasn't just the artist was used to drawing at a certain scale and didn't divert from that scale. One of you mentioned that a lot of the characters look alike, and I think a big part of that is that they have to be drawn simply because they're being drawn so small.
that makes sense because I noticed that a lot of times the Ani and Tetsuko, they appeared to be the same size in a lot of panels if Ani wasn't just, maybe the smallest bit taller. And he is supposed to be 4 years older. So he's a very short 15-year-old, or she is fucking giant.
Maybe she's huge. She is Tetsuko.
So can I just say, another thing that we haven't talked about enough, the translation here.
Oh, I have some notes on that thing.
It was bad. MaxyBee points out here in volume 2 on like the character page where Marie is referred to as a ghost girl.
Mm-hmm.
Ghost without the H, to be clear.
Boy, I sure hope someone was fired for that.
Yeah, I actually have a bunch of notes related specifically to the translation. Like, I think around chapter 7 is when they actually brought in a new translator.
Yeah, were we reading an official translation?
No way.
I didn't think so.
No fucking way.
Well, I mean, wait. So you mean to tell me that Super Dog Rilienthal did not merit an official localization and publication by Viz?
Shueisha decided that they didn't want to bother, no.
Not yet.
Maybe if the sequel was not a sequel series, but maybe if World Trigger gets big enough.
Or is it?
That would be an incredible long con.
Oh, man.
Oh, man. We read this one manga a little while, like a couple weeks ago, I think, called, that one about, like, the warring states in Japan. You know the one I'm talking about, Dylan?
Yes, I do remember the one, oh, God, that was the fucking one with the assassin who wasn't an assassin, right?
Yamato Gensuke. Yeah, so it turns out that in the author's next manga, which ended up being pretty popular, it's Ayakashi Triangle, right? I think it's Ayakashi. I don't know. But the point is, it turned out that there were characters in that manga that were the reincarnated versions of the characters in Yamato Gensuke. So you never know, is my point.
So I'm actually just going to buzz over because I have a bunch of notes regarding specifically the translation that I just want to buzz over.
Please do, yeah.
So in chapter 11, we get fucking kekaku'd. Shinshi gives his card to Rilienthal, and all it says is Shinshi. And then they throw in the translator note at the bottom that just says Shinshi means gentleman.
Shinshi means gentleman.
In this fucking day and age, we got fucking kekaku'd, and it made me laugh my ass off. Another one, in the first chapter where Wilbur exists, his name is Wilb, O-U-I-L-B, which means it is a phonetic translation, which means this was translated by someone whose native language was not English, and they had never heard the name Wilbur before.
Wilbur.
I'm fairly certain one of the scene translators, like it mentioned that they translate specifically to Indonesian, which made me think that they went from Japanese to Indonesian and then used like Google Translate.
Well, I was going to say, because even if English wasn't their native language, wouldn't it have at least been Wirba?
I'm not 100% sure.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, the only reason they would end it at the B is if it ended with a U, if it was Wirubu, which wouldn't make sense.
Weeaboo.
Yes. It is. His name is Gentleman Weeaboo.
Treading dangerously close. It sounds like every person on Reddit. What do you mean it sounds like somebody?
No, it sounds like somebody who has the most obnoxious video essays you could possibly watch.
Ooh,
It can be your angle or your devil.
No, I've received a few emails, yeah.
It's a rant sona, is my point.
And then, let's see, and there's a translator note in chapter 21 regarding a missing panel in their scan, and that was more jarring than the actual missing panel, because it was so difficult a lot of the time to track any action in the first place. So them being a missing panel, I was like, all right, cool, that was just whatever. And then I saw at the bottom, there was a panel missing here. Cool, thanks, why would you tell me that?
It was like there was just a page missing, and it was like, sorry, it wasn't included in the raw. I don't know what to fucking tell you. Yeah. We don't got it. Okay, here's what happened.
Rilienthal went chasing down.
Just some other quick little miscellaneous things. The art quality really drops in like the last 5 or so chapters.
I think I was too enraptured in the storytelling. I think that
there was just so much shit going on.
It might make sense if they rushed it out the door towards the end. The assistants may have been looking to attach themselves to other projects.
Or the author got depressed and didn't put that much effort into it.
Just not given the right deadlines, being pushed hard.
Regardless of how much time he had, the storytelling pace is so frenetic in those closing chapters that...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And finally, for my things, I just want to quickly get out of the way. The gun note.
Please do.
In chapter 1, when Ani rapidly disassembles the bad guys' guns, you can see them holding guns. They're completely blacked out the entire time. However, based on the profile and during the disassembly, you can see the bushing. Those guns are supposed to be 1911s. However, they are missing their hammer. So those are not actually 1911s. They're some variety of weird striker fire hybrid 1911 that only exists in this author's imagination. However, then at one point when someone pulls out a Derringer, it is a very well detailed, like old school barmaid Derringer that she'd keep in her panties.
Oh my God.
And it wasn't fully blacked out. It was like highly detailed and everything. So
I remember the Derringer. It seemed so weird out of nowhere.
Dylan, you are aware that handguns are illegal in Japan.
Google existed.
Yes.
And also, whatever rifles were drawn in the later chapters were very clearly traced.
How many examples can we think of? I was considering this, where Rilienthal is able to use his power intentionally. Because during the Tetsuko trauma arc, those 6 chapters, the big giant is chasing them, and it's very scary, and they discuss solutions like knocking out the person whose emotions are being manifested. Was never been a thing before. If that was the case, like, or why don't you knock Rilienthal out since he's the one doing it?
Yeah.
If he could even be knocked out.
When they're unable to address Tetsuko's emotions in a way that diffuses the monster, Rilienthal finds in the bookstore the picture book that the little girl is reading in the opening chapter about exploring the seafloor. And he summons, like in the opening chapter, his power reacts involuntarily to her imagining the story.
That's true.
But when they're fighting the giant monster, he like summons the sea monsters from that book, like he's reading a spell book. And I feel like that's the only time he is able to, alone and unassisted, intentionally use his power. Because like when they're making the room, all the kids are imagining the room together, and that's why he's able to make it real.
Also, you mentioned talking about knocking out Rilienthal. Isn't there a part where Rilienthal starts bashing his head into like a wall or something?
I don't think he could actually be truly injured.
No.
Don't think that's possible.
You know what? Good. We don't need injured dogs.
I was expecting, my God, the tone.
Talk about tone shift. Yeah.
The opening chapter, they're pointing guns at, where's my notebook?
Get that moleskin.
The opening chapter, they're pointing guns, not even at Rilienthal. It's like, give us RD1 or we'll shoot civilians on this bus.
Yeah.
Then they find a magical staircase. Then they go inside the TV. Then they go to the store. Then there's a space cat. Then there's a ghost story that's based on a true story where a child was stranded in a ship at sea. The rescue effort picked up everybody except the child, and the child starved to death.
Yeah.
Then they have fun with the ghost. Then Akira has his little adventures with the space chat. Then Wilbur shows up and says, I forgot this about Wilbur until my reread. He introduces himself with, I've kidnapped your older brother.
He kidnapped Doggy. Ani, I'm sorry. Yeah.
If you ever want to see him again, beat me in chess. End of the next chapter. Actually, I like you, dog. We'll be friends. I'm not even going to tell my superiors that you're RD1.
Why? Because it's interesting.
Because I am an agent of chaos.
Tetsuko's trauma, which I thought was the only part that was actually balanced in terms of stake and character relationships. They're playing around and they make a custom room, and then Rilienthal gets a bike, and then the antagonists, Reiichiro and Olga, show up, who seem like they're going to be a very big deal, but again, leave very quickly, having acquired a newfound respect for the kids. And then Wilbur and Lowrise live there, and then they go into Lightning Mitsuhiko's world, and then...
The respect that Reiichi and Olga developed for these kids and Rilienthal happened so fast that like I missed it.
I think it happened the instant that Tetsuko broke through the rope and concrete anchors, and that Ani disassembled the robot and reassembled it better than ever. That was like immediately they're like, all right, cool, we with you guys.
It was basically like, shit, we don't want to fuck with these guys. Okay, we're friends now. Like that's the only way to read that.
Which is funny because they're kids, but everyone is kids. I thought it was insane when the supervisor at the organization, like Akira's boss, who also ends up on Rilienthal's side despite having never met him. At some point they revealed he was like 23 or something. So everybody is children in manga.
Well, hey, are you familiar with Kaiju number 8?
No.
One of the main parts of that manga is that the main character is just fucking ancient. Like, he's extremely old. I mean, he's fucking 32. Like, just this ancient guy. Like,
hey, you know what? To me, 32 is ancient, so...
I am 32, so...
I have encountered works of Japanese animation where they say things like, a middle-aged man in his 30s. Oh, okay.
Their life expectancy is so high.
To a high school student, 30 is middle age, I guess. I don't
And also, maybe culturally, that's just their concept of middle age just is different.
Starts then? I don't know.
Starts then and had different expectations.
You remember Sid from Final Fantasy VII?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like this old, grizzled, like...
Not Final Fantasy 8? Or 10? No, wait, I don't...
You mean Robin Williams in Final Fantasy VIII?
I'm thinking of Final Fantasy 10. That's the one with Titus and he goes, ah, ha, ha, right?
Yes.
Okay.
No, Final Fantasy VII is the one with Cloud.
Yeah, but there's that like grizzled older samurai guy in 10 who's only like 30, right? The guy in the red?
How old is Oron?
Oron High School Host Club.
He's 35 years old. But Sid in Final Fantasy VII is presented as this old, experienced, like salty pirate guy or pilot guy who's 32. Like, nah, if you're over your 30s, you're basically a grandpa in Japan, is what I've learned from anime and manga and video games.
Because 30-year-olds disappear from the public eye because they just become businessmen.
Yeah,
they become salarymen. It's funny. Recently, I was watching my girlfriend play a video game called Fear and Hunger 2.
Oh, I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's translated. I think the author's original language is Finnish. It's translated to English. And there's a character who's introduced as a salaryman. And I was like, that's interesting. We don't really use that word in English except as a translation from Japanese. And then the salaryman is like, hello, I'm Yotsuhiku Akira. I was like, oh.
Well.
I bet there's like some parody where there's a celery man. I hope so. But anyway, let me get into MaxyBee's thoughts here. Speaking of things like celeries, Super Space Cat's favorite food is not curry. They say that his favorite food is curry. It is not. It is kyori, which is a cucumber, which is why when he's eating the quote-unquote curry, it looks like a fucking cucumber.
Was it a deep fried cucumber? Because it looked like it was breaded or whatever.
I don't know.
I'd have to double check, but yeah, I was thinking, what the fuck is it supposed to actually be?
Yeah, because they say curry, but it's a discrete physical object.
Yeah.
It's definitely not curry. So apparently it's supposed to be a fucking cucumber, and the translator just fucked up. MaxyBee says here, 0 out of 100 translators see me after class. So see MaxyBee, see them after class.
I would not be surprised if the translators had a enthusiasm shorted while working on this series.
They changed staff multiple times. The translator, aside from the last 7 chapters, was all the same person. Then they cycled between proofreader and editor multiple times. It was all over the place for the staff for the scene group that did the translation that I read.
Yeah, I remember a lot of ads exhorting the reader to join their localization staff.
Yep.
Last but not least, I want to get into the connections to World Trigger. This is not going to mean anything to me, but it might mean something to you, listener. First of all, the Zodiac system from Rilienthal is used again for World Trigger's birthdays. Was there a Zodiac?
I don't know what that means.
I don't remember that.
I don't remember Zodiac system at all.
No.
What?
I don't know what that's about.
MaxyBee, what did you read?
I don't either. MaxyBee, I have no clue what you're talking about.
Wait, did MaxyBee read the Japanese one?
We probably were insufficiently attentive.
Yosuke Yonea wears badges with Rilienthal Super Space Cat and Gomuzo on them. Someone just straight up reads Super Dog Rilienthal in chapter 1.
So Super Dog Rilienthal takes place in, as a piece of media inside that universe. Okay.
Yeah.
This is my favorite manga. I can't believe Weekly Jump canceled.
It was Monthly Jump by the time it was canceled, fortunately, but yeah.
Nerd.
Yeah, there are like generic neighbor monsters that kind of look like Gomuzo.
Right, the neighbors are the monster species that the kids have to fight in World Trigger. I read a summary of it.
Okay.
They're called Nebas.
Yeah, and Yotaro has the same mouth and similar eyes to Rilienthal, which, hey, those are the best parts of Rilienthal's design. Am I right? Am I right, everybody? Oh my god. And yeah, there's a plushie of Rilienthal in chapters 82 and 83. So yeah, now let's get to the final verdict.
So let's start off with some 6-word summaries from our community. And for those of you who are interested in submitting for future episodes, there will be a link to our Discord in the episode description where you can then join and submit your own 6-word summaries. Starting with MaxyBee. Manga has a serious case of updog.
What's up, dog?
It's a dog that goes up.
Rilienthal can make it real.
Dackerson, Super Dog, not Super Manga. Diego the Phantom Seer. I read Rain Lethal Dog instead.
I think Romlethal is a...
Romlethal.
Is that not how it's... Fuck, is that not how it's pronounced? This Guilty Gear character.
I have no idea.
I have no idea.
Okay, it's a Guilty Gear character.
I read Romelithal, whatever, instead play Strive.
Romlethal Valentine.
Diego says play Strive,
Yeah.
so I'm assuming
Yeah.
that it is a Guilty Gear character.
Yeah.
Dude Rocks the Earthchild stand, just the average puppy owner experience. Captain Clueless, it's truly what the dog doing. Lord Anubis #1 Red Hood fan / mourner, what the world triggered dog doing.
Oh,
Mr. Davy, our good friend David, who is not here today.
nope.
It's not as super as Ravioli.
Ravioli is David's dog, to be clear.
Oh, I thought it was just his favorite food.
That too.
You know, that would make sense. Portal Man has 2. Most powerful super pet in manga. Rilienthal is a 5-dimensional dog. Spubby, what if Ravioli could warp reality? Spike, well, that went to the dogs.
Hey!
Hey.
Boom! Gotcha! Oh!
Was that Spike Spiegel?
You know, it might be. It might be.
It's actually Spike Jones.
Well, that went to the dog.
Or Spike, just the entire dead TV channel.
Spike Lee.
Spike TV!
Mine is someone give this dog to Araki, or is it child or animal abuse? Because he's treated as both a kid and a dog.
That's true.
How about you, Jordan? What's yours?
A new effective form of therapy.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah. How about you, Tessa?
Mine was Magic Dog Makes Dreams Come True. I may have overestimated how serious this summarization process was supposed to be.
I mean, it could be as serious as you want it to be, or in the case of someone give this dog to Araki, it could just be...
Duck Lips Dog externalizes child trauma.
Yes.
Yes. That one's better, honestly.
Yeah. I will change it.
Thank you. That's very good.
It also sounds like a newspaper headline.
It does.
That should be a finalist for the floppies.
Yes, that is our awards show where we give ourselves awards. It's pretty good. Anyway, let's get into flop or not. Dylan, was this a flop?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, very much a flop.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say certified flop, but yeah, this was a flop. There's far too much wrong with it for me to say it wasn't. But it's sounding like you have some other thoughts, Jordan.
No, I agree.
No.
It is a flop. There are things here that I really liked, but overall it's too little. Like there's just too much stuff here holding it back. It doesn't have the sauce. I'm sorry. How about you, Tessa? Is this not a flop, or a certified flop?
Yeah, I would say that it is an unfortunate flop.
Yes.
Because I think that there is a good heart, and in another series, under different circumstance, that could have been something.
Yes.
Is it something here? I don't think so.
For brief moments, maybe.
Yeah.
And Dylan, since you said it was a flop, would you recommend something instead of this? What would you...
So I would recommend, if you want to, say, I don't know, read something involving a nebulously magic animal that can do fantastical things with its mind.
I can't imagine what you're about to say.
I'm actually going to recommend you go back to Superman's girlfriend Lois Lane, some older comic series, and there's multiple arcs where Superhorse
Yeah!
attempts to court Lois Lane by taking the form of Superman, by doing magic, because Superhorse isn't like Superman. Superhorse is actually magic. So that's what you should read instead, where this horse tries to bang a woman.
Oh, well.
He does. They get engaged. She almost marries him. Superman's girlfriend Lois Lane is a fucking mess. It is basically everyone on Earth is such a dick to Lois, and everyone is also trying to bone her. She gets married to Batman for a while. Superman is always just like blowing her off. It's a terrible series. It is so campy and fun.
Oh my god. That sounds great. How about you, Tessa?
The tonal territory that series got into during its rush, but ultimately climactic finale, where you have very cute cartoon characters fighting a real and serious threat, reminded me a lot of the Kirby series of game. So yeah, if you are interested in that kind of story, where a cute little cartoon character, Japanese design no less, faces an extraterrestrial existential threat, maybe just play Kirby Superstar Ultra. That being said, if you are looking to read a series of manga, and you might be interested in what causes things like sudden narrative and tonal changes in a series, you'd read Bakuman, which I talked about earlier, which goes very in-depth about the process of publishing manga in Jump and also different ways that manga can fail.
Nice.
All right.
Yeah.
As for me, well, I just saw Logan last night, and that's a really good movie.
Did you watch the black and white cut?
No, it's about trauma, which I think this is also about, maybe, kind of. I don't know. Logan's just a good movie. I just recommend it.
Hell yeah.
Anyway, Dylan, is this the best worst series we ever talked about? No.
So, I've only been involved in 3 episodes.
Exactly,
This
so I'm
still
just going to
isn't-
say no.
No, this still is not the worst that I've been involved in. I would have to say that Neru is worse, significantly so.
Is it the best that you've been involved in, though?
No, that's not. No.
This is the dead straight middle road.
Okay.
Service Wars was so damn fun.
Service Wars was great, and even that was like kind of, even that I said was a flop.
Yeah, and Neru was just garbage and focused too much on feet.
You want to talk about something that feels like it got ruined by editorial mandate? Check out Service Wars. Oh, so sad. Oh, man. But yeah, that's pretty much the show.
Oh, but is it the best or worst series that you've talked about?
No.
No, Dylan anticipated my point, which is that as this is the only episode I've been on, Rilienthal is necessarily both the best and worst series that I've discussed.
Now, that's a good point. I hadn't...
But is it the best and or worst manga that you've read?
Yeah, unfortunately, I also have to damn it with faint praise and say that it's not the worst manga I've read. I have read some crap.
So have we.
Have you read Yuri Wall?
I have not.
Oh, it's not even that bad, actually. But just based on the name, it's kind of gross. Anyway, we should probably move on over to the wrap-up because we are significantly over time, which means I'm going to be spending a little bit more time this weekend.
I am sorry, Dylan. I am sorry.
I don't mind. I'm having so much fun. I do not care.
I am also having a lot of fun.
I'm glad.
Aren't you, listener?
I hope you are. Otherwise, why are you still listening?
Either way, hey, keep on listening. We appreciate the retention stats.
Yeah, no, actually keep listening. Yeah.
Better yet, loop this episode and have it run in the background. Turn your phone on mute, but have it play on Spotify. And then just, set your phone aside when you go to bed. There you go.
There you go. Now you're thinking.
People always talk about taking a nap while my stream is running. And I'm like, well, I mean, as long as you don't close the stream, I'm still getting that view. So sure.
Yeah, hey.
Hey, I don't care how you consume this podcast.
That also means they appreciate your stream enough, and your stream is mellow enough, not enough dramatic shifts in tone, so it's not like some screamy mess. So it's something that they can feel comfortable with having in the background.
Yes, when I get killed in a video game, I merely squawk.
I tuned into one of your streams. I don't think I reached anything like that. I'm gonna need to watch some more.
I'm greatly esteemed that you've seen me stream. Thank you.
Of course.
Do you squawk often?
Yeah.
I see.
So now that we've gone through this very, very heavy overview of this all over the place manga, let's move on over to the wrap up. Thank you so much, Tessa, for joining us today. Now, if people were interested in seeing and hearing more of you and everything you do, what would they do? Where would they go? And what would they find out?
Thank you. My username is strongBadEgirl, no punctuation or space or anything. I can be found under that name on twitch.tv/strongBadEgirl and also Twitter. I stream Fridays through Monday, Friday starting at noon, and Saturday and Sunday starting at noon, and Monday starting at 3 p.m. I generally stream Souls games, but I also stream anything that allows me to voice act dialogue.
Ah, I see.
Very fun.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. This was so good to have you on. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I had a great time.
Thank you very much, Jordan, for making the opening ending theme, being a great co-host, and helping with editing after my initial run. Props to Merliel for the amazing cover art. You can find her online at Lyle_Mer, and Nigel for being our fantastic art benefactor. Thanks to Tucker and MaxyBee for assistance with pronunciation, translation, and other miscellaneous research. You can find us on Twitter at ShonenFlopcast, Tumblr, Shonen-Flop, and our website, ShonenFlop.com. We're also on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, or wherever else you get your podcasts. Make sure to join the Shonen Flop Discord. It is open to everyone, patron or not. Come and hang out with us and talk about anime, games, whatever else is on your mind. We have movie nights, we have a book club, everything like that. You can find a link to it in the show notes or on our site. And if you've been enjoying the podcast and want to help us keep going, consider subscribing to our Patreon. We would not be able to keep the show running without their support. You can get a ton of awesome perks, like exclusive content, including, Jordan, what is this month's patron exclusive content?
Well, Dylan, we are finishing up Cypher Academy with Josh from the Volume 1 podcast. Tessa, are you familiar with Cypher Academy?
I am not.
It is a manga about Japanese word puzzles.
Oh.
The translator quit.
So not getting a dub anytime soon.
Oh, man. They got a new one, but you can tell that the new one was just cutting some corners.
Oh Christ.
You can also even be sitting in to our recordings live or listening to the warm-up audio. You can find us at patreon.com/shonenflop. And Jordan's going to be reading a fantastic list of all of our wonderful patrons.
Starting out with our dolphin dads, we got Glornak. Juices flowing down Sean's thigh. All your body's made for pleasure. You're the star of my liquid dreams. And David's wife, Rachel. Next, the ravioli tier, where you can get pictures of David's dog. Tiffany Langston, Lady T, Matt, Eva, Chris Xenofontos, T, Jeanette Davis, Trevor Schechter, Scarlet Myrmidon. Next, for the King of the Forest tier, Justin Hefner, Riley 3.14, Chad Mason, Bandit Stoof, my girlfriend, Justin Hefner, Tommy Boy, Brad, Isekai Sensei Sama, 090Z, Jacob Andrew Galloway, Kirby Mondoscolos, Sarah Hydra, Marty, and the Wolf, the Wood, and the Trafalgar. I would also like to say thank you to all of our Galactic Ball Federation officers and all of our Beast children.
Thank you very much for that, Jordan. And is there anything else that you would like to talk about?
First of all, Dylan, I would like to thank you so much for coming in here, taking David's spot while he was off doing his fucking David bullshit. Thank you for having a sexy voice, and thank you for editing.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, check out my other podcast, Mission Ignition, about an insane show that only I remember from the 90s called Vampires. Yeah. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now let's move on over to sign-offs real quick before Jordan's power goes out.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us this week. Tune in next Monday as Jordan and David give their first thoughts on hands.
Oh, God, that fucking name.
This has been Dylan.
This has been Jordan.
And this has been Tessa.
And you've been listening to Shonen Flop.
Keep on flopping, flopping.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.